Subscribe if you hate Karens, and comment where you're watching this video from. The email hit my inbox like a punch to the gut. A critical server failure back at the office, all hands on deck. Vacation cut short. I'd only been in Cancun for 4 days, finally unwinding after months of relentless deadlines. The turquoise, water and fruity cocktails were now a distant memory as I slammed the car door shut, the humid Florida air heavy on my skin. The whole drive back from the airport, I was a knot of frustration and resentment. This was supposed to be my time. Pulled into my driveway, the familiar sight of my 2-story colonial offering a small comfort. Maybe a hot shower and a home-cooked meal would ease the tension simmering inside me. As I walked up the pathway, I noticed something was off. A child's bright blue bicycle, a brand I didn't recognize, was leaning precariously against my meticulously trimmed rose bushes. I frowned. Had I forgotten something? Maybe a friend had dropped by with their kids? Then I heard it. A cacophony of childish shrieks and laughter, punctuated by a woman's shrill voice, was spilling out from inside my house. My heart leaped into my throat. A burglar! But why the kids? I quickened my pace, reaching the front door, fumbling with my keys. The noise was getting louder, more chaotic. I unlocked the door, took a deep breath, and pushed it open. What I saw defied all logic. A small boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, was tearing through my living room, a Nerf gun clutched in his hand. A younger girl, pigtails bouncing, chased after him, giggling. And overseeing the whole scene, her face flushed and sweaty, was Karen freakin' Miller, my neighbor from across the street. Karen, the queen of HOA violations and passive-aggressive potlucks. Karen, who always gave me that tight, suspicious smile. Whenever our paths crossed, she was yelling something. I couldn't make it out over the din. My mind raced. Was I hallucinating? Had the sun fried my brain on the beach? This couldn't be real. I stood frozen in the doorway, my suitcase forgotten. In my hand, trying to process the absolutely surreal tableau unfolding before me. My house, her family. Utter chaos. The boy with the Nerf gun spotted me first. He screeched to a halt, his eyes wide with surprise. "Who are you?" he demanded, the plastic weapon wavering in my direction. Karen whirled around, her face transforming, from flushed amusement to a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. "Jordan, what are you doing here?" Her voice was laced with a venom I hadn't known she possessed. It was as if I had stumbled upon some secret, shattered some unspoken agreement. The kids, sensing the shift in atmosphere, fell silent, their eyes darting between Karen and me. "What am I doing here?" I echoed, incredulous. "This is my house. Karen, what are you doing here? And who are these children?" I gestured at the 2 wide-eyed kids, trying to keep my voice level. The absurdity of the situation was almost comical, but the anger was building inside me, a cold, hard knot in my stomach. "You don't belong here," she spat, her face contorting, with a mixture of rage and fear. "This is our house now. You need to leave." Her words hung in the air, thick with malice and delusion. "Your house? Our house? Are you out of your mind, Karen? This is my house. I own it. I pay the mortgage. I just got back from vacation." I was starting to lose my cool. The sheer audacity of her claim, the brazenness of her invasion, was beyond comprehension. "Liar!" she shrieked, stepping towards me, her finger jabbing in my direction. "You don't belong in this neighborhood. You don't belong in this house. This is a respectable community, And you're bringing it down. Her voice was rising, piercing the stunned silence of the children. I took a step back, dumbfounded. This wasn't just a mistake, a misunderstanding. This was something else entirely. This was racism, plain and simple, cloaked in a bizarre, delusional justification. "Get out," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Get your kids, pack your things, and get out of my house right now, before I call the police." She just laughed, a high-pitched, hysterical sound. "You call the police? I'll call the police. You're trespassing. You're harassing me and my children. I'm calling 911 right now." She turned on her heel and stormed towards my kitchen, reaching for the phone on the counter. I wanted to grab her, to physically remove her from my property, but I knew that would only escalate the situation. I couldn't risk anything happening to the kids, even though their mother was clearly unhinged. I had to think clearly, to remain calm. This was insane. Absolutely insane. As Karen dialed 911, her voice shrill and panicked, I herded the children towards the front door. "Come on," I said, trying to keep my voice gentle. "Let's go outside. It's not safe to be in here right now." The boy clung to his Nerf gun, his eyes wide with confusion and fear. The girl started to cry, burying her face in her mother's skirt. Karen, still ranting into the phone, barely glanced at them. "Yes, officer, I need help. There's a man in my house. He's threatening me and my children. He says he lives here, but he's lying. He's a danger to the community." The words hung in the air, dripping with prejudice. I managed to get the children outside, seating them on the porch swing. They were both clearly terrified, caught in the middle of a situation they couldn't possibly understand. I knelt down in front of them, trying to reassure them. "It's going to be okay," I said, forcing a smile. "The police are coming, and they'll sort everything out." Inside, Karen continued her tirade into the phone, embellishing the story, painting me as some sort of violent intruder. I could hear snippets of her conversation through the open doorway. Threatening, aggressive, "doesn't belong here." The words were like tiny daggers, chipping away at my composure. I paced back and forth on the porch, waiting for the police to arrive. The minutes stretched into an eternity. The silence was broken only by the girl's occasional sniffles and Karen's frantic voice filtering through the walls. My mind was racing. What was going to happen? Would the police believe her? Would they see through her lies? The thought of being arrested, of being falsely accused, filled me with a cold dread. I knew how these situations could play out, especially for a black man in a predominantly white neighborhood. The system wasn't always fair, and perception could easily become reality. Finally, I heard the distant wail of sirens. Relief washed over me, mixed with a healthy dose of apprehension. The cavalry was coming, but I knew this was far from over. This was just the beginning of a long and messy ordeal. I just hoped that justice would prevail, and that Karen's twisted fantasy would be exposed for what it was, a blatant act of racism and a complete disregard for the truth. The sirens grew louder, culminating in a screech of tires as two police cruisers pulled up in front of my house. Two officers, a man and a woman, emerged from the vehicles, their faces grim and professional. They surveyed the scene, the two frightened children on the porch swing, the open front door, and my tense posture. The male officer approached me, his hand resting on his holster. "Sir, we received a report of a disturbance. Can you tell me what's going on?" I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "Officer, my name is Jordan Lawler. This is my house. I just returned from vacation early, and I found my neighbor, Karen." Miller, living inside with her children. I gestured towards the open doorway. She's claiming that I don't belong here, that this is her house now. She called 911 and said I was threatening her. The female officer approached the children, kneeling, down to speak to them in a soothing voice. Are you both okay? What's your name? The boy mumbled something inaudible. The girl just shook her head, her eyes still red and swollen. The male officer spoke into his radio, relaying the information to dispatch. He then turned back to me, his expression skeptical. Sir, do you have any proof that you live here? A driver's license? A utility bill? Anything with your name and address? I nodded. Of course, my driver's license is in my wallet, and I can access my online banking to show you my mortgage statements. I reached into my back pocket, retrieving my wallet. Just then, Karen stormed out of the house, her face flushed and her eyes blazing with righteous indignation. Officer, this man is a fraud. He's trespassing. He's trying to steal my house. She pointed at me, her voice shrill and accusatory. He doesn't live here. I do. I've been living here for weeks. He's dangerous. You need to arrest him. The officers exchanged a look. The male officer held up his hand, silencing Karen. Ma'am, please calm down. We need to sort this out. Sir, can you show me your identification? I handed him my driver's license. He examined it closely, comparing the photo to my face. He then requested my car registration and insurance, which I provided as well. Everything matched the address of the house. The male officer turned to Karen, his expression hardening. Ma'am, this man's identification confirms that he lives here. Do you have any documentation to support your claim that you live at this address? Karen's composure began to crumble. She stammered, her eyes darting back and forth. I don't have anything on me right now. But I live here. Ask the children. They'll tell you. The female officer, who had been speaking to the children, stood up, her face grave. Officer, she said, addressing her partner. The children say they live across the street with their mother. They said they've been coming here to play because their mom said this was their new house. The male officer's gaze turned icy. He stepped closer to Karen, his voice low and menacing. Ma'am, are you telling me that you've been living in this man's house without his permission? Karen started to cry, her facade of righteous indignation dissolving into a puddle of fear and desperation. I didn't mean to. I just wanted a better life for my children. My husband left me, and I lost my job, and I couldn't pay the rent. I saw that Mr. Lawler was on vacation, and I just thought I could stay here for a little while, until I got back on my feet. She looked at me, pleadingly. Please, Mr. Lawler, don't press charges. I'll leave right now. I'll never bother you again. Just please, don't take my children away. It was a pathetic display, but I felt no sympathy for her. She had not only invaded my home and terrorized my children, but she had also tried to weaponize her race against me, falsely accusing me of being a dangerous intruder. Her actions were reprehensible, and she deserved to face the consequences. Officer, I said, my voice firm, I want to press charges. She broke into my house, she stole my belongings, and she falsely accused me of a crime. I want her prosecuted to the full extent of the law. The male officer nodded. Ma'am, you're under arrest for burglary, trespassing, and filing a false police report. You have the right to remain silent. He began reciting the Miranda rights as he placed Karen in handcuffs. As Karen was led away in handcuffs, sobbing uncontrollably, the female officer called Child Protective Services. The children were taken into protective custody, their faces etched with confusion and fear. It was a tragic sight, but I knew it was for the best. They needed to be in a safe and stable environment, away from their mother's increasingly erratic behavior. The officers secured my house, ensuring that everything was safe and secure. They took a statement from me, documenting the damage and the missing items. They assured me that the case would be thoroughly investigated and that justice would be served. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. I had to appear in court several times, providing testimony and evidence against Karen. The prosecution presented a strong case, highlighting her blatant disregard for the law and her malicious attempt to exploit racial stereotypes. During the E-Haidt trial, it was revealed that Karen had a history of mental instability and had been struggling with financial difficulties for months. Her husband had left her due to her increasingly erratic behavior, and she had lost her job due to absenteeism. Desperate and delusional, she had concocted the plan to move into my house, believing that she was entitled to a better life. In a shocking twist, Karen's lawyer attempted to argue that her actions were motivated by a genuine belief that she owned the house, claiming that she was suffering from a temporary psychotic break. However, the prosecution presented evidence that Karen had deliberately targeted my house because I was black, citing her racist remarks to the 911 dispatcher and her neighbors. Ultimately, the jury found Karen guilty on all counts. She was sentenced to several years in prison, and her parental rights were temporarily suspended. It was a harsh sentence, but it sent a clear message that such blatant acts of racism and criminal behavior would not be tolerated. In the aftermath of the trial, I received an outpouring of support from my neighbors and the community. Many people expressed their shock and disgust at Karen's actions, and they offered their assistance in helping me rebuild my life. I felt a sense of vindication, knowing that justice had been served, and that Karen had been held accountable for her actions. While the experience had been traumatic and unsettling, it also served as a reminder of the importance of standing up against injustice and fighting for what is right. The feeling of finally being able to truly feel safe in my own home again was a reward I would forever cherish.